Fill my heart with your word, that I may praise your name, and I'll give glory to thee, my God.
A number of scholars teach that double senses are somewhat common in prophecy. This concept says that some prophecies were intended to have two or possibly more fulfillments. An early text on Bible interpretation tells us that the concept of double fulfillment arose early as desires to find mystical meanings were gaining popularity. There we read, they eagerly adopted the theory of a double sense, a theory which was in harmony with their mental constitution and with their mystical tendencies. And their emergence in the church and the force of their genius gave authority to it in the following ages. The error of double meanings in prophecy is found in the concept of a prophecy being fulfilled twice, not in its specific statements fulfilled at various times, which would be foreshortening. That was studied in our previous videos. I would invite you to go back and see that if you did not already. Pressing double fulfillment would not be so important to modern scholars if their doctrines didn't depend so heavily on it. They need to use previously fulfilled prophecy to create a framework for their world of the future. The fact that Scripture declares these prophecies fulfilled creates a problem. To get around this problem, prophecies are recycled and the concept of partial fulfillment comes to life. Now we have fulfilled prophecy that is yet to be fulfilled again, and we've succeeded in making the Bible confusing. As Milton Terry pointed out, to assume in the absence of any hint that we have an enigma, and in the face of explicit statements to the contrary, that any specific prophecy has a double sense, a primary and a secondary meaning, a near and a remote fulfillment, must necessarily introduce an element of uncertainty and confusion into biblical interpretation. An example used to validate double fulfillment is Matthew's reference to Hosea 11:1. Matthew wrote that what was spoken by the Lord through the prophet might be fulfilled, saying, "Out of Egypt did I call my son." That's in Matthew 2:15. This does not indicate a prophetic double sense, the first being the nation coming out of Egypt, and the second being Jesus coming out of Egypt. Israel had already come out of Egypt when Hosea wrote. Hosea was speaking of an historical event, and that forms an interesting connection with Jesus as the new lawgiver coming out of Egypt. A distinction must be made in the nature of divine revelation when we discuss laws for obedience and predictions of the future. It results from the nature of revelation that while revealed laws must be clear and doctrines distinctly and positively taught, prophecies can be clearly understood only after the event. This being true, we understand symbolism in prophecy by studying its fulfillment. Thomas Horn applies the peace prophecy of Isaiah 11 to the defeat of Assyria, and then presents a second fulfillment in the peace of the current gospel age, going on to say, its most glorious era, predicted in the passage, may not yet be arrived. Isaiah chapter 10 does discuss the Assyrians, with chapter 11 presenting events that will occur at a later date. But this is the foreshortening that Horn himself describes. Chapter 11 has moved past the Assyrians into the gospel age, which Horn tries to make a second fulfillment of the same prophecy. Horn does correctly apply the piece of Isaiah 11, 6 through 9 to the present age, but goes on to affirm what the passage cannot be describing, and that is a triply fulfilled prophecy in a future kingdom of peace on earth. Well, hopefully this has given you some basic information to help you see some of the false reasoning that goes on in proposing double fulfillment of prophecy. Our next video is going to take up the question of whether prophecies get postponed by God. I hope you'll join me for that study.